You're listening to Podcastam COVID Gyan, your one-stop resource for scientifically reliable information on and conversations about the novel coronavirus and COVID-19.
Hello everybody, I'm Shantala Haridas from India Bioscience. With the recent outbreak and the rapid spread of the novel coronavirus, we at COVID Gyan wanted to take a deeper look at the economic impact of COVID-19 on households and businesses in the informal Indian economy. Today, we're chatting with Dr. Anand Sahasranaman, who is a faculty in economics and mathematics at Kriya University. He was previously head of Dwara Research, where he began working on issues of social protection. Thank you, Dr. Sahasranaman, for joining us today in this conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Can we begin by looking at what are the economic implications of a situation like the current COVID-19 outbreak?
Sure. One of the first things that come to mind when we consider the fallout of COVID-19 are really the scenes that played out across the country when we had migrant workers in our cities trying to get back home to their towns and villages, and they were unable to. These tragic scenes were really showing us the plight of what constitutes essentially the backbone of India's informal economy. Now, with the current social distancing measures that have been enforced, a large portion of this population is likely to be out of work and may not have any source of income for the foreseeable future. In fact, there's a small data sample from the CMIE which suggests that unemployment rate in India has actually shot up to about 23% post-lockdown. Now, there are significant questions about the ability of a large proportion of the informal workforce, which constitutes daily wages, right? So about 90% of India's workforce work on a daily wage. And how are they going to be able to manage a long lockdown? We have to understand that most households here do not have any financial or physical asset-backed wealth or any savings, right, to fall back upon. While there remain uncertainties about their job prospects after the lockdown, our most pressing concerns are about the ability of such households to meet their basic requirements of food, medicine, shelter for the duration of this lockdown. So before we go any further, I just want us to dig a little bit deeper on what we mean by this notion of an informal workforce. Now, informal workers are defined largely by the nature of the labor contract that they have. So these are typically short-term employment contracts without any kind of job security or even a regular wage. So, think about the construction workers we see in our cities. This is a ubiquitous sight in all Indian cities. Now, these are workers who get paid if they're working on a project that day, and if they're not, they don't get paid. Often with informal workers, you find that payments are also commission-based. And really, there are no social security benefits like paid leave, insurance, or pensions. To put some numbers on these statistics, we have the periodic labor force survey. The last one was conducted in 2017-18. Which tells us that only about a quarter of the Indian workforce works in what we call regular wage or salaried employment. And out of the remaining 75%, about 2/3 are self-employed and a third are casual labor. When we talk about, self-employed and casual labor, this covers almost the entire gamut of, micro and small enterprises in India. So think about the kirana stores, the vegetable vendors in our neighborhoods. All of those businesses sort of fall under this broad umbrella of the informal sector. But even amongst the salaried employees, we have to remember that over 2/3 have no written job contract, and half of them are not eligible for any form of social security. So in India, what we have in essence is a workforce where job insecurity is endemic. And now with the economy having ground to a halt, we need to really employ measures that protect these workers and their households from falling further into poverty and from falling further into debt.
That is indeed a large proportion of the Indian population that's going to be drastically impacted at the economic level by the current situation. So how does one go about quantifying this impact?
So I guess measuring the impact would start by, taking a careful look at the capacity of our healthcare system and our ability to respond to such an event. Now, we must remember that if we see widespread community spread of COVID-19 in India, the poor will be the worst hit. And this is because of their inability to sort of meaningfully socially distance themselves. Now, this is not just on account of their living arrangements, but also because they cannot afford to remain unemployed for too long, given the economic profile that they have. So with service industries also under lockdown now, a majority of the informal sector will be at the very least temporarily unemployed. Now, this is bound to have a number of cascading and possibly latent effects at two broad levels. Now, let's consider the household level first. At the household, we would worry about the food consumption and nutrition levels, especially of children. And also in the household, we would worry about the income and the occupational patterns of the adults. Given the underlying uncertainty in unemployment and wage flows, this will become a significant concern as we move forward. Now, recently, the ILO has estimated that about 40 crore informal workers could slip into poverty due to this single event. The impacts are the systemic level, where our worries relate to diminishing access to credit markets and the impacts of COVID-19 on micro, small, and medium enterprises in terms of their ability to sustain themselves and to grow. Now, especially if small and medium enterprises, end up showing sluggish growth, high levels of unemployment may become a sticky reality for the near future, and that remains a significant worry. Now, the extent of these impacts will, of course, become apparent with time, and it's clear that government and the state are trying to mitigate these impacts by putting together packages that comprise a combination of insurance, food benefits, debt relief, advanced wage payments, and cash transfer. From what we know so far, there is a wide variance in the nature of measures announced by different states. For instance, if you look at the category of building and other construction workers, Delhi has promised the cash transfer of about 5,000 rupees, while Kerala has promised the cash transfer of 1,000 to 2,000 rupees, and Tamil Nadu a cash transfer of 1,000 rupees, along with an in-kind transfer of rice, dal, and cooking oil. So what we are seeing is that different states are providing different levels of assistance for various categories of people affected by COVID-19. Now, given that we remain unsure about the length of the disruption that we face, I would say the concerns that are being raised about the packages are twofold. One, is the quantum of support being offered sufficient? And two, how effective will the delivery mechanism be in order to ensure timely delivery of the promised benefits, given that the need is immediate?
It is evident that the current consequences are severe, but how long do you anticipate to see such an economic impact on the informal sector?
So what you've raised is the much harder question of how long we're going to be in this situation. We must remember that at this point, there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding how the next 12 to 18 months will pan out, given the progress of COVID-19 so far. Will we see a recurrence of COVID-19? How severe will it be? Will we see periods of heightened social distancing followed by periods of careful opening up? Given these inherent uncertainties, I guess what we really need to do is to think systematically about the nature and extent of support that households and enterprises in the informal sector will need, and try and deliver benefits and packages that speak to those needs.
So given the extent and scale of the impact, what measures are already in place and what more do we need to be doing?
So there are a number of measures that are available, and as we briefly discussed, the center and the state to varying levels have tried to address these. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there are three essential needs that currently relate to basic survival. One is household cash flows. Two is securing the health of individuals and households. And the third is providing some kind of unemployment protection for the people who have lost their jobs. Now, let's consider each of these individually. Now, first, we need to address the absence of income through cash transfer. Now, we know that average daily wages in urban areas are between about 300 and 400 rupees. So weekly cash transfer of at least 2,000 rupees is going to be essential for the duration of this lockdown and for any lockdown that might occur in the future. Now, in addition to the period of the lockdown, we must ensure that cash transfers are operational for at least 1 quarter beyond the lockdown. Now, this is because, the lockdown type event, as we have already seen, can have significant employment consequences, can cause significant economic disruption, and any cash transfer should be able to sort of meaningfully provide for subsistence in this extended period of need. Now, these transfers can be made to all Jan Dhan account holders to ensure that transfers are going to those in need. In addition to this, state governments can also match payments by central governments to holders of, perhaps family ration card. And these will ensure that entire households can be reasonably supported in these uncertain times. Now, second, we need to address the direct health impacts of COVID-19. One, by ensuring free treatment for all COVID-19 diagnosed patients registered under the already existing Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. For those in the informal sector that are not covered, the center and the states need to ensure some form of parametric health insurance cover with a cash payout in the region of rupees 2 lakhs to cover medicines and hospitalization upon the diagnosis of COVID-19. Now, cash payouts in this case will be much preferable to your traditional reimbursement method because if you think about informal households in a situation that requires hospitalization, they might not have enough funds to make an out-of-pocket payment. And finally, we need to universalize unemployment insurance. Now, for rural citizens, this can be done by enhancing state-notified NREGA wages by 20 to 30% over the next 6 months. For urban workers, one way to think about operationalizing this will be by using the existing enrollment under schemes such as the Atal Pension Yojana or the PMSYM. So these three, I think, are going to be some of the most critical and immediate measures that we will need to put in place. Now, this, of course, raises the question of how we can raise money for this effort. Now, with growth forecasts being drastically cut, it is unlikely that the government can finance these measures with tax revenues. And the sale of capital assets also does not seem feasible in the immediate context. So this additional expenditure will have to be financed through debt, which, given our current situation, I would argue, is reasonably justified as urgent, necessary, and directed spending by the government.
Thank you, Dr. Anand Sahasranaman, for breaking down for us the economic impact of the current situation, especially on the most vulnerable amongst our population. Before we sign off, do you have any message for our listeners?
Just a couple of other thoughts. COVID-19 has once again brought to the forefront critical fault lines in the Indian economy. So I'm talking about the high levels of income and wealth inequality, as well as the lack of basic social protections for a majority of the Indian population. So given that we have this context, there is a need for us to seriously consider proposals for more equitable redistribution of wealth. Consider proposals such as wealth or inheritance taxes. We have a conversation about the possibility of universal basic income. I think these are conversations that need to be had much more seriously than we've had before. At an individual level, I think many of us are concerned about what we can do at this time. Now, one thing that has become apparent in many ways is the value of the work that is being done by this large network of India's invisible work. At the very least, each of us must ensure that we pay our household helps, our drivers, or any others employed domestically by us fully for however long this disruption lasts. There is a larger conversation, I think, that we need to have about how poorly these professions are more generally paid, given the value that they add in Indian states.
Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Anand Sahasranaman, for joining us in today's conversation and helping us better understand the scale and extent of the impact of the current COVID-19 outbreak on the economics of the informal sector in India. We hope that this puts some of the current happenings into perspective while also giving our audience an understanding of how they can help. Thank you all for listening. Do take care, stay safe, and watch out for future podcasts on COVID Gyan.
For more information on the novel coronavirus and COVID-19, visit us at www.covid-gyan, that's GYAN.in. COVID Gyan is a multi-institutional effort to create, curate, and spread scientifically reliable information on the novel coronavirus and COVID-19. Here you will find answers to frequently asked questions, mythbusters, relevant research efforts, a breakdown of the science of the current outbreak, resources to help you stay fit and healthy in the current times, conversations with scientists, health professionals, and other experts in the field, and useful links that we have curated from across the web. As possible, these resources will be translated into 11 Indian languages. Until next time, listen, engage, and share.